Hello everyone, welcome to the very first class of CMA Final Law Current Batch, and this class is 100% English batch. So if you are looking for a mix of Hindi and English, please check out for the other video. This is going to be in complete English. Now, since this is the first class, you might be filled with a lot of thoughts, a lot of queries, and I am also equally excited and filled with enthusiasm, I would say, to convey all my thoughts to you, right? Since it is going to be a long journey, it's better that you get that crystal clear clarity at the beginning itself, right? So all your thoughts, all your questions, all your queries, the teachers have the sixth sense ability to read students' mind and capture their queries over the period of time, over those years of experience. So before you ask me anything, let me tell you how the class is going to be, what are you going to get, and what efforts do you need to put in, what efforts do I need to put in, how are we going to collaborate towards success. Because of course we all understand that given this mode of learning or any mode of learning, there are certain obstacles which the students face. But the key to success is not to focus on the obstacles or the hindrances, but to focus on our goal and the solutions. So my dear, I have solution to everything, every possible obstacle that we may witness in this journey. How is it going to be? What is it going to be? Let's continue, let's start and discover it on our own. This class or this particular lecture is all about introduction. So in this we are not going to learn about, we are not going to start our chapter number 1, company formation and conversion, nothing. We are just going to discuss. What are we going to discuss? About our CMA final syllabus, about our basics, about our process of learning, about law, right, about our course structure and like things, right? So first of all, now what are we going to get? What are we going to get? So you, my dear, are going to get class notes, handwritten charts, as well as a question bank. Now first of all, class notes, they are going to be completely exhaustive. There is going to be 100% coverage according to our institute's syllabus. So I have read every page, every single line, and thereafter actually compile this particular material which is relevant to you, which will be provided to you, and which is exhaustive. So you don't have to read anything extra. So first doubt is clear, do I need to refer to this material, study mat also, etc, etc. See, there is a lot of convenience that we want to add up to. I might have taken this whole batch with that institute's material itself, right? That would have been super easy for me too. I do not have to take that pain of designing a book and all that thing. But there are a lot of problems in that also. The section is only written in this much format and there is a huge para, plus it's not updated, there are not amendments incorporated, I don't have questions in that. So there are a lot of problems that we as teachers also face. So it's better to have our own material design. But yes, one assurance that I can convey to you is that nothing will be missed out, right? This particular batch, I've taken extra caution that nothing should be missed out, right? Now, next thing is handwritten charts. So handwritten charts, again, for this particular batch, they are exhaustive. They're more comprehensive. Earlier, they were restricted to certain chapters, the part of corporate law basically. Now they're going to be for every chapter. So you have a quick reference before exams, which is going to take you to a thorough journey of whatever you have studied so far, right? So quickly you can wrap up your whole syllabus before exams with the help of this. Apart from that, you also have a question bank. Now, question bank is again divided into two parts. One is a set of questions that we're going to discuss in class, and the other is the questions for self-practice. They are with solution, with proper answers, although I still don't like to give you answers because I don't believe in spoon feeding and like serving you the answers on the plate itself. So my request to all the students would be that even when you're doing self-practice questions, please don't look at the answers unless needed. I want you all to be more confident about yourself, let your brain open up, right? So please don't just plainly blindly follow whatever is given. Just reading it will make your studies also boring, right? So my request to you would be that please don't look at the answers, although the answers are given, but don't look at the answers unless you need them. Try it on your own, whether it's an objective question or whether it's a subjective question, because we are being asked both set of questions in our examination, right? So you have a question bank also for the same. Now, what efforts do you need to put in, and how are we going to study, right? What is going to be our study strategy? For that, you need to understand that studying law is a 4-step process. 4-step process means there's going to be concept, learning, answering, and presentation. And when you know this, you can definitely clap for yourself. CLAP: concept, learning, answering, and presentation. Concept building is the first and the most important thing. How do we build a concept? It may so happen that when you enter into a professional world, because you all, my dear, are already finalists, but this journey from being an aspirant to becoming a professional is really special, and you are soon going to witness the same. You're soon going to turn out to be a professional, and I will definitely be very proud and very happy when you share your results. Even if they are not very positive ones, I feel proud because I see you putting in a lot of efforts, and you have to continue putting those efforts. Now, when you enter into this professional world, you might find a lot of situations which are different from what you have studied, and you will realize, oh my god, was I wasting all these years? No, you were not wasting. Maybe whatever you have studied, you have not analyzed it from every angle, from every possible situation. So it's important that when you study a concept, you ask your mind, you put up different possible situations in front of yourself. What happens in this situation? What happens in that situation? And likewise, it helps you in answering examination questions also, right? So whenever we study a provision, we have to first understand the framework of the provision, like why this provision has been introduced, then what is this provision all about, and finally we are going to relate it to the practical situations, practical scenario, practical applicability, which is very important. See, my dear, we are studying a subject like law. In law, I cannot tell you anything new. Or be it anyone, we cannot tell you anything new. We can tell you, we can share the logic behind law. We can tell you why this is happening, or probably this must have been the thought of lawmakers. But we cannot change this thought. We cannot change the law. Okay, you don't find this convenient, you do this. No, even if it doesn't suit you, even if it doesn't matches your expectations, still this is law and this is how it is, right? We are just interpreting it. It is how it is, right? So we cannot tell you anything new, and we cannot read anything new. We just have to read what is given in whatever has been conveyed by the legislature. That is what I am going to convey to you, right? So concept building has to be very strong, and that will be very strong. My assurance is to you, for sure. You will never come up to me and say that ma'am, my concepts are weak. No, of course, we have a restriction, right? This is your syllabus. This is the time which you have allotted to this particular subject or your syllabus. So we have a time constraint. We cannot just go out and out and out and keep on reading it for years and years. So we have a time constraint, but your concept building will be bang on. Don't worry about it. Now, the second part comes is learning. Learning has to be two-way, one in class and one at home for sure. So we are going to have constant revisions in class, which is going to keep your memory fresh, but at the same time, you also need to learn at home. You also need to put in efforts at home. What efforts? You don't have, you just have to follow my guidelines. If I say you revise this at home, just revise this. Just give 15-20 minutes and revise it. Right? So if you constantly follow my guidelines, trust me, success will be yours, and there's no two way about it. It will be, that means it will be, right? But you have to put in efforts, and those sincere and honest efforts. Third is answering. We are going to learn to answer, because in law we have direct questions, we have objective questions, we have case studies, we have some questions of 4 marks, some of 6 marks, some of 2 marks. So we need to understand for which particular question how we must answer, how much should we answer. So all that part we are going to take up, we are going to discuss in the class itself, and we are going to practice questions, fine? So that will never be a problem for you. The last part is presentation in exams. Now, how you manage those 3 hours of exam is also very important, for which you are going to constantly get tips, do's and don'ts and everything. But those 3 hours have to be how you perform, which is very important, right? So, of course, I will prepare you for those 3 hours also. But those 3 hours, you have to be on your toes. Fine. So, my dear, all the latest classes, no mixing, matching with let it be. I don't want to comment about that. It's according to your syllabus. It's exclusive CMA final law classes, fully updated. Yet if there is any amendment or any academic update, inclusion, deletion, whatever from the syllabus or anything like that, you have to subscribe to my YouTube channel and stay connected. You will find all the amendments or academic update there itself, right? So stay connected with me and you will find everything, right? Now, even after this, see, I have years of experience. I have compiled thousands of queries, and all those queries, I know that how a student thinks. Maybe if I'm teaching a particular topic, I know that these can be the probable thoughts which students get, and I have incorporated those queries also in my classes. Yet if you have any query, any doubt, or if you just want to talk to me and ask me, ma'am, I'm feeling nervous today, I don't know what to do, I am just a message away, right? So you will get my direct number. Of course, I'm not going to give you number right away. That you will get only once you subscribe for the classes. So that is for registered students. I'm so sorry, dear, I cannot handle all of that queries of even unregistered students. Don't have that much time and competency. I'm really sorry for that. But so once you subscribe to the classes, you get a direct contact number, which all the messages, all your voice notes, you want to send query in any format, you can, and they come directly to me. I am the one who answers the same. It's no other member or anyone else who's going to, it's just between us, right? So that's how it will be. Now, once you have already got to know that how our classes are going to be, now let's talk about our subject. CMA Final Law, Paper 13, Corporate Laws and Compliance. I know there is a lot of fear about this law subject, right? And law also seems to be boring at times. And what happens is that all other subjects are quite interesting. And even if you feel lazy when you're reading any other subject, you feel lazy for some time and then it goes away. But laziness in our subject comes and stays with us. So we have to make sure that it does not come to us. We never feel boring. We make our subject interesting in best possible way. So my endeavor will be through different examples, stories, animated videos, charts, whatever I can, however I can convey. I will keep the class interesting and you also have to cooperate with me. Fine. Now CMA Final Law, Paper 13, Laws and Compliance. It's divided into 3 sections, Section A, B and C. Section A, 60 marks, Companies Act and IBC, but you have to study a lot for the 60 marks. The most scoring part is Section C, where you have to study less and you score 15 marks, right? And corporate governance has a set of approximately 15-20 questions which are asked, like they are asked in one form or the other. Only those 15-20 questions keep on rotating, right? So it's highly scoring. Now in Companies Act, you don't have to study about all the sections. We have some restricted sections in Companies Act which are scattered. I cannot say that from this section number to this section number you have to study. You have to study some part of incorporation also. You have to study some part of dividend. You have to study some part of deposits. You have to study all that part of directors and all. From there you have a long coverage, right? So we have scattered sections. In IBC, also, you don't have to study whole IBC, some part of IBC, and IBC is one such thing which has witnessed a lot of amendments in the recent past. In India, this is a continuous problem. Government comes up with a law when they are not prepared. And once they come up with the law, they are very quick to release that law. And once it is passed, they keep on adding amendments, that this should be amended, this should be amended, this should be amendment, and all the burden of amendments is on us, right? But we are no weaker than the government, we are stronger, right? So we will face all the updates, not a problem. In other corporate laws also we have certain acts, SEBI, SECRA, Competition, Banking Regulation, PMLA, FSC, Insurance Act, ADA. All these are small acts, not very huge ones, but we have to study, right? So we will study all of that. It's going to be a very, very, very long journey, but a very interesting one and a very fun. You are going to love it, I'm sure. Now, corporate laws and compliance. Corporate laws and compliance. Before, my dear, we start with the subject, what is law? We are going to read about compliance and we are going to read about corporate law. So we must know what law is all about. I am sure 90% of the students must be very well aware of the process of law and everything, but I am also addressing those 10% of students who might have done self-study or are not very well aware of this. So we are going to first of all discuss what is law. Okay, so law is basically a set of rules and regulations which we as citizens are supposed to follow, right? So what is law? It is nothing but rules and regulations. Fine. Now, often students have this misconception that law is something which is formulated by government, which is formulated by central government rather. Do you think this is correct? or you have some other view? Well, first of all, let me tell you that law is not something which is made by government. See, we have let me erase some page, get something for you. Okay. We have three bodies. We have legislative body, we have executive body, and we have judicial body. These three bodies actually run the whole system. Now, for all those who think that law is something which is in the hands of government, well, let me tell you, it's not so. Law is made by us. Now, when I say this, the students would get quite thrilled of the thought that we never thought we have so much powers that we can actually make law. And if at all we had powers, we would have never made such huge laws for the students to study. I mean, Companies Act, 470 sections, no, never. Well, the truth is that India is a democratic country, and we, being the general public of a nation, we have been conferred the power to do so. Now, you must understand, given this thought, you must understand that it cannot happen at all that if there is a proposal of law, there always comes a proposal of law. If everyone is driving, let's say there is no traffic rule, nothing, so everyone will drive, and what will happen? Accidents, a lot of accidents will take place. So now the need to make traffic rules is felt, and so some rules are being formulated, drafted, just like we write on a copy, pen and paper, right? So they are drafted, they are formulated, and they are proposed to general public, that we have this inconvenience while driving and a lot of accidents take place. So we, any one of us, say propose that certain rules be made. How many of you agree? If the majority agrees, we will make this a rule, and now everyone has to follow. You agree with me? Fine. So every time there is a problem, some rules are being drafted and they are proposed in front of general public. Now, how will they propose the rule? They will go on every possible address, knock at the door, and ask for assent or dissent. Do you agree? Do you disagree? They will take count of votes. Do you think it's possible with a population of 130 crores? More than 130 crores, certainly. India is a country which is constantly progressing as far as population is concerned. So do you think it is possible? Of course it's not. It's not possible. So how do we make laws? Because it's the general public whose assent is required while making laws. How do we make laws? We elect some representatives. We elect some representative and they take part in decision making. So whatever our representative says, just like in classes we had class representative. So whatever our representative is saying is presumed to be our wish. You agree? So my dear, this is how we elect our representatives. Fine. So people will go on to elect some representatives. These representatives are known as members of parliament who sit in Lok Sabha. That's why Lok Sabha is also known as House of People, right? So we have certain representatives whom we are sending to sit in Lok Sabha and take some decisions. Likewise, we always go for two elections, right? One is for the state and one is for, of course, Lok Sabha. So for state, we select MLAs and they in turn select the members of parliament who sit in Rajya Sabha, right? So MLAs elect the members of parliament. I'm not going to that particular thing. So we also have Rajya Sabha and we have president. Now, as soon as I say these three things, this is parliament. This is parliament. So, my dear, whenever I'm saying or anyone is saying an act is passed by parliament, it means it has been passed by us because our representatives are there in Lok Sabha. It has been passed by Lok Sabha, it has been passed by Rajya Sabha, and it has got the approval of President. Thereafter, it becomes an act. Now again, ma'am, we have not got the crystal clear clarity yet. I'll start from the beginning. In our country, we have made a constitution which is supreme. The Constitution of India is supreme. So constitution defines everything, what is happening, how it should happen, everything. So anyone, if gets any power, it is derived from the constitution there itself. So constitution is supreme, it is made by public, no matter who has written it, but it has been made on behalf of public, right? So constitution, from constitution you have to derive power whether you can do anything or not. Now constitution confers power to parliament also, to the state legislature also, and to a combination of both to make laws. If let's say for example income tax, let's say for example GST, any centralized tax, if we are talking about VAT and state taxes, they are all matters of state. But if I'm talking about general things, then we have some centralized matters. Listen to me very carefully. We have three lists. We have union list, we have state list, and we have concurrent list. In union list, we have certain matters for which parliament has the power to make laws. State government or state legislature, as of that matter, cannot make laws. We have certain things for which state legislature can make laws and certain things on which both can make laws, right? So these matters are enumerated in these lists, right? So constitution is supreme. Parliament derives its power from constitution to make acts, to make rules. I'm using the word act and rules, but I will be more specific now on. Okay, to make act or central acts which are going to be prevalent throughout the country or as the act may specify. Clear? What is parliament? Parliament is Lok Sabha plus Rajya Sabha plus president. That constitutes parliament. So parliament has that law making power. From where does parliament get that law making power? From the constitution there itself, right? I hope so far things are clear. So who is the legislative body in our country? It is parliament. It can be state legislature also, but we are talking about the centralized acts, central acts. So if we are talking about central acts, because here we are not reading any state laws, we are reading central laws, we'll talk about central acts. And when I'm talking about central act, who has the legislative power? It is the parliament. So parliament is someone who is making law, who executes law. Now we'll come to government, and now you will have a more clear perspective how do we say that it's BJP government or it's Congress government or anything like that? How do we say that? Supposedly the election happens and out of say 1000 seats or out of say 550 seats, out of say 500 seats, out of say 600 seats, you take any fictitious example, BJP has got majority of the people who are elected. Whom do we elect? Anyone who is willing to be or willing to act as a representative, that person will only be elected. No, you cannot come and elect me. I'm not willing to act as a leader. I'm not willing to act as a representative in Lok Sabha of you. So you cannot elect me. So anyone who allows himself, that person can only be elected. So we have different political parties of which the people allow themselves to be elected and thereby we elect them. So supposedly BJP has got the majority of the seats. Now they have the power to form the government. They have the power to form or appoint ministers, form ministries, through which the whole division runs, through which all the laws are implemented. We have Ministry of Home Affairs, we have Ministry of Defense, we have Ministry of Corporate Affairs, MCA, the most important for us as professionals, MCA. So we have a ministry for managing all that corporate world, Ministry of Corporate Affairs. So that is a ministry which is being run by the ruling government. We have a ministry which is being run by the ruling government. So we have a lot of ministers, a minister from all the departments the central government is segregated into, and all these ministers are presided over by our Prime Minister. So all these ministers actually formulate central government. All these ministers actually formulate central government, and they are the ones who are ruling the country. They are the ones who are responsible for maintaining law and order in our country. If anything happens, we blame that government. Okay, under Modi ji, this is happening. Right? So we directly blame whoever is the ruling party over there, whoever is the ruling government over there. Right? So we blame them. Why? Because they are the ones who are responsible for maintaining. They do not have the law-making powers. They have been given law. This is the law. You are responsible for maintaining this law, making people follow this law. So how are you going to make people follow this law is in your hands. That means Parliament has made an act called as Companies Act, which tells us how company is going to be incorporated, how company is to be run and everything. But Companies Act tells us form the file. Which form? What details you need in the form? Right? So that power is with ministry. So we have Act which is made by Parliament. We have rules, notifications, etc., which is made by the ministries, which is made by central government. Because they are the ones who are responsible. They are the ones who will tell us how this law has to be maintained. Right? So they are basically executive bodies or implementing body. And we also have a judicial body which is interpreting, which interprets law. Right? At times when we are stuck, it tells us that a particular provision has to be read in a certain way. Fine. So I think this is clear. Right, now we come back. So you know what is the meaning of law? Is law different from Act? Yes, certainly it is very different from Act. Law is a much wider term. Law is a wider term. It comprises of Act. It comprises of the rules. It comprises of notifications, regulation, ordinances, circulars. Sorry. Fine. So law is a much wider term. Statute or act is the same. So it is different from act. That is clear. Now, who makes act? Whoever has power under the Constitution. Matters are being listed in these three lists. Under union list matters, Parliament has the power. State list matters, state legislation. Concurrent list matters, both have the power to make law. Right? Both have the power to make law. If we do not comply with the law which has been made, then we are being attracted to penalties, which can be imprisonment and it can be fine or damages also. Fine. Now, one common thing which you all know, I don't think I need to tell you this, this is something which is very common and being told by, I think, almost everyone, that how an act is passed. Now, as I told you, we have an idea in mind that this particular law should be made. So we draft certain rules, we draft certain things, we write it. It is a draft, it is not final. So it can be subject to changes. There might be a number of changes which may be incorporated in that. So that is published in newspaper and suggestions are invited. Then it is firstly introduced in Lok Sabha. After it passes in Lok Sabha, it is forwarded to Rajya Sabha. After it passes in Rajya Sabha, after all the discussions, deliberations, opposing things, etc., etc., then it is sent to President. When President gives the assent, it becomes an act. Fine. I don't think so far there's any problem. Okay, so we know that we have three bodies. Legislative body which makes law. Who makes law? Central acts are being made by Parliament. Why? Because Parliament gets the power from the Constitution to do so. And it is nothing but we are the ones only who are the part of law-making process. Indirect part of law-making process. Now once that part is clear, we come back to our subject, corporate laws and compliance. What is compliance? Compliance of law. So we need to understand law first and then only we can go to compliance. Non-compliance can be subject to different penalties and all things. Corporate law. Corporate law is a law of corporates. Under corporate law, first thing that we are going to discuss, it is about a central act which has of course been made by Parliament, is Companies Act 2013. Is Companies Act 2013. Now, you know that any act can now be passed by Parliament. It is a central act, so it must have been passed by Parliament, it must have been made by Parliament. From where does Parliament get its power? From the Constitution. Is it given in union list, ma'am? Well, yes. There is a residual entry in union list, that is entry number 97, which gives power to Parliament for making central acts in respect of matters which are not listed above. So fine, we get that power. So Parliament got the power and Parliament made this particular act. Companies Act 2013. Fine. Why is it made? Why Companies Act 2013? Because we have a beautiful form of business organization which is company, which has a lot of loopholes, a lot of advantages can be made from this particular form of business organization, and it is gaining a lot of popularity and importance. So a very primal need was there to understand that some regulation needs to be there for this particular form of business organization. It's not that Companies Act 2013 is the first act to regulate company. We had a lot of acts, 1956, the most popular one before this. But here we are not talking about the previous company laws or the acts. We are talking about Companies Act 2013. Fine, Companies Act 2013. Clear? Fine. Let's talk some history of Companies Act 2013. So in 2008, bill was introduced, but it was rejected. It was rejected straight away. Then it was reintroduced in 2009. It was then referred to some standing committee for finance. Okay, fine. So standing committee for finance referred to it. They submitted their report. It was again sent to approval to Lok Sabha, and finally in 2012 December, it was approved in Lok Sabha. In August 2013, it was approved in Rajya Sabha, and finally on 29th August 2013, President gave its approval to the bill. As and when President gives the approval, it becomes an act. Fine. I have an interesting thing to ask you over here. Let's see if you all know this particular perspective or not. A very unique question. Let's say President gave the approval of act on 29th August 2013. Fine, ma'am. At 3 p.m. Now you are being given 4 options. When will the act deemed to be effective? 29th August at AM, 30th August at the same time, or 30th August at 9 AM, or 29th August at 3 PM. When will the act be deemed to be effective from? Because the President gave the assent at that particular point of time at 3 PM. Okay, so with the 50-50 option, let me tell you these are incorrect options. The act will be deemed to be effective from. It's exactly how your birthday operates. No matter at what point of time, at what time of the day you were born at, your birthday, as soon as the clock strikes at 12, happy birthday to you, right? So the same way, the act is also born. No matter at what time it took birth, it is effective, its birthday comes at exactly 12, right? So it's going to be effective from 29th August 2013 at 12 AM. Okay, doesn't matter, it has got approval at 3. Fine. So this was just a quick thing for you. Okay, now I think so far this is clear. So we have Constitution, which is supreme authority of, or you can say fundamental law making authority. When I talk about Companies Act, my dear, what all things we have to read? We have to read about Companies Act, which is made by Parliament. Fine. Then we have how you, a lot of procedures are required. That, okay, fine, Act tells us that submit a form, but how the form has to be submitted, within how much time, what is the fees that you are going to charge, a lot of things. So that is dependent upon the government, upon the ruling government. So we have to read about some rules, circular notifications, which are given by MCA, that is Ministry of Corporate Affairs. So we read the Act, we read rules, and this is from the legislative body, this is from the executive body, and then we also have some case laws or references from the judicial body. So many a times people have been stuck that how this particular law has to be interpreted. So the court's judgment help us to understand that. So broadly, when I'm talking about Companies Act, we're not just reading the centralized act, we are reading act along with the rules, notifications, circulars, as well as the case laws. Fine. So we have the main law, main act. Then we also have that legislation which is delegated or which is subordinate, that is rules, regulations and all those things. And then we have case laws. Fine. Clear? Okay, now we are reading about Companies Act 2013. So it regulates a business form of organization which is company. So what is a company? What is a company? We have right, we'll come to that. What is a company? Company, if you go by the definition of company, or let's first understand the general meaning of company. There is any group of people who wants to do a business. They have different choices. They can go for, if there is just one person, he can go for a proprietorship business, or they can formulate a partnership. They also have a choice to opt for a form of organization which is company. Now, when you go for a company, you have different advantages, you have different compliances. If you choose for a form of organization which is company, you must get yourself registered under this act. And when you get registered under this act, then only you are known as a company. And once you are known as a company, you have to comply with everything that is given in Companies Act 2013. So company is nothing but company which is registered under the act or previous company law. That means, let's say for example, Reliance Industries. Now when Reliance Industries was incorporated, we did not have Companies Act 2013. So there was previous Companies Act. So no matter if the company is incorporated under this act or previous company law, it will still be treated as company. Why we need this particular form of business organization? The answer to this will be best given by Bunny. Now who is Bunny? Bunny is a fictional character designed by me who always gets stuck in one or the other problem. Okay, so we will read about this in our next class with the help of that video. When? Any time before or after commencement of the act, certainly. Company can be incorporated before commencement of this act also, and after also, before under previous company law and after under this. Where it is applicable anywhere in India, company can be opened anywhere in India. How you have to form a company and how you have to run a company, both is being dealt by the provisions of Companies Act 2013. Fine. Now, my dear, what is Companies Act 2013? Companies Act 2013 is a huge act, huge act. A lot of sections, in fact 470 sections to be precise, plus you have a lot of rules. Ma'am, do we have to read all those sections? No, luckily you don't have to do that. There are 7 schedules as well. If I talk about our syllabus, you have certain chapters. Now full chapters also you don't have to read. The act is divided into 29 chapters, 470 sections and 7 schedules. You have to read some part of it. The topics are basically this. Fine. So one by one you will discover it all. I cannot say that you have to read from section number this to this, because a lot of sections are missing in between. You don't have to read about them. So you don't have to worry at all. Whatever is there in your syllabus, strictly I'm going to follow that. Fine. Now this Companies Act 2013 was not notified at once. It was notified in parts. On 30th August, we had the 98 sections notified, then again in September, again 1st April, and so on. So part act was notified, and part the old act was repealed. January 2019, all the sections were in place except for producer company, whose provisions have also been notified in the new act. Fine. So now Companies Act 1956 has been completely repealed, and we have a new act in force, which is Companies Act 2013. Clear? Now, before we go further, I want you all to note certain things. Although it is the first class, you were kind of relaxed, but still I want you all to note certain things. I think I made it note in the class. I can find it. I think now you can see it, right? Fine. So you have to note this. What are the authorities under Companies Act? This is going to help you. This is going to help you throughout the act. As we progress the act and read all that part, this is going to help you. First of all, MCA, Ministry of Corporate Affairs. You all know that it is nothing but the executive body through which the corporate world is governed, right? MCA has the power to make rules with respect to Companies Act. Fine. Then we have ROC. The full form of ROC is Registrar of Companies. Registrar of Companies. For all those who get slightly confused or anything, don't worry. When we go on to read the act, you will understand everything. But this is a basic idea that I want to give you before we progress with the act. Fine. What do they do? You all must be knowing already all these things. Companies Act 2013 is not new to you, but I don't want to take any risk. So ROC maintains the records of all companies. They're appointed in every state, but there are 2 states in India in which there is more than one ROC. Which are the 2 states? Please let me know. So they maintain the records of all companies. Then we also have an RD. RD means Regional Director. Regional Director, supposedly, see, one state has one ROC. The other state has other ROC. The other state has other ROC. Now, this may be in one region. So we have a regional head. So they supervise the working of these 3 ROCs, say for example. So they are in charge of a region, regional director. Fine. Then we have NCLT and NCLAT. They are nothing but courts. Just like we have read about a judicial body, they are also judicial body. So ma'am, why do we need them? We already have courts. Well, if you go to a court, the whole process is very long, right? Judicial systems are already overburdened with files. So for corporate world, basically for Companies Act and for IBC, special courts are being designed. Fine. NCLT, NCLAT. 2-step court, I would say, because in NCLT, if you're not satisfied, you do go to NCLAT, appellate. You can appeal. Fine. So that is an appellate body. So they act as courts under these 2 acts. They act as adjudicating bodies or judicial body or adjudicating authorities for these 2 laws. That is Companies Act and Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code. Clear? So we have these authorities which are going to be relevant to us. I think so far things are clear? Fine. One more thing. You all must have read about case laws. You must have seen a lot of case laws which are being cited here and there. A versus X, 410, AIR 208, 1989, SC. Now we often fail to understand the meaning of these because this is just a short form. What does it signify or what does it denote? See, A versus X. A and X are the two parties over here. In any case law, there are two parties. One is the plaintiff, the one who finds himself that, okay, something wrong has happened to me, so I am filing a case against the other party. So usually this plaintiff is considered to be the aggrieved party, is also known as the aggrieved party. And then we have a defendant. Since the case has been filed, I need to give reply. So I am going to defend myself that I have not done anything wrong. Someone has put an allegation on me and I am now going to defend myself. Right? So we have two parties and these are the two parties. 410 is the volume number. AIR is the journal number. What are you saying, ma'am? Journal number, not, it's the journal. Ma'am, what are you saying? See, although Google has taken over everything, if I want to find what happened in this particular case law of 1989, can I find it on Google? Everything? No. I can just find some extracts. That information cannot be authentic enough to be reproduced in court, right? But the notings of the court itself are great, right? They are recorded in law journals. So we have All India Reporter, which is nothing but it's a law reporter or a journal. We have 410, which is the number, right? So they are all recorded in those books, which can be referred to as and when needed. So this is All India Reporter. We have 208, which is the page number. Which is the page number. Our case starts from page number 208, so case beginning page number. 1989 is the year and SC stands for Supreme Court. So that's how the case laws are being referred to. That's how the case laws are being referred to. Clear? I hope so far things are clear. Okay. Now we come back. Fine, we'll start this. Don't worry, I'm not going to start chapter number 1 over here. Today was the class only about introduction, discussing about our subject, knowing our course structure, knowing our subject, knowing what law is all about. So I'm not going to start with chapter number 1 today. But yes, I'm going to discuss briefly what is the coverage of chapter 1. And certain things we already know, certain things I've already told you. I don't think I'm missing out on anything. Certain things I have, yes, I've already told you. Fine. So according to your syllabus, according to our institute's material, we have chapter number 1, which is companies formation and conversion. In this, we have a lot of things which are being compiled in this chapter, that is some basics related to company, how company is being incorporated, about Nidhi companies, about producer companies, about foreign companies, and some part related to conversion. Fine. So all these are comprised here itself, because if I teach you, if I tell you that okay, foreign companies I'm going to deal with later on, we can do that, there's no problem, but I want you to have that confidence that it's strictly according to our syllabus, so I don't want to hinder that flow. So it's going to be here in this chapter itself. Plus, if I talk about say CA final syllabus, if we are talking about this chapter foreign company, all the sections are there. But if I talk about your syllabus, there are some sections which you don't have to study. So why study more, right? Already we are overburdened with our studies. So fine, one by one, we will progress with it. Again, I'm not teaching you, I'm just making you recall that you already know certain things from this chapter which I have conveyed. What do you mean by company? This is the meaning, this is the definition. Voluntary association of persons, and if you get yourself registered, then you are known as company for the purpose of Companies Act. Basics of Companies Act, it has 470 sections, 7 schedules, 29 chapters, a lot of rules. Administration part, MCA, ROC, this official liquidator, trustee, director, all this you will understand later. NCLT, NCLAT, and then applicability and extent of Companies Act. The Companies Act is applicable to the whole of India if we are talking about the geographical applicability, and otherwise it's applicable to every company which is incorporated under this act or previous company law. If I talk about banks, they are also companies. They are incorporated under Companies Act, but they get the license to operate as a banking company. So when they operate as a banking company, they are subject to banking regulations, of course. So they come under the purview of Banking Regulation Act. They come under the purview of RBI Act. So they have more specific regulations. They have to follow what Companies Act says. But if their prevalent regulation is contradicting Companies Act, their specific regulation will have an upper hand. You get what I'm trying to say? If Banking Act says follow this and Companies Act says don't follow this, you will follow this for banking companies. Fine. So all these 3 types of companies, that is banking, insurance and electricity, they have to comply with Companies Act. So far the provisions are not inconsistent with their respective acts. Fine. And then you also have any body corporate which may be notified by government in this behalf. Clear? So our Companies Act is going to be applicable to that part. Fine. So the first thing that we are going to start with for our CMA final law syllabus is going to be Companies Act. Companies Act 2013. How this act is incorporated, that I've already told you. Why this act is incorporated, that also I've told you. I will discuss about the basics of companies and all. We have to discuss a lot, but we'll do it in the next class. We'll basically start our studies in the next class. Today is not about studies. It's just about gaining that idea. You must know about the subject to excel in the subject. So now you have an idea of the subject, that we have a lot of content that we have to study. We have to plan our studies accordingly. Where we have to give more focus, where we have to give less focus. So we will take care of all those aspects one by one, and in the next class we will commence with our studies thoroughly, right? So hope you have got that basic idea, and if you did not know about law and all that thing, I hope you are way more clearer than. Right, now let me wind up the session and see you in the next class. Thank you so much.